Good morning. I want to invite you into this time and this space with these words from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Know that you are not alone, and discover the way our voices rise. For this one moment, know only that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here among us, here upon this earth, in your body. However tired or broken your heart may be, whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry, for this hour, know you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering the way our voices rise and fall together in harmony, in hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. Let us be here together. Amen. And I want to invite us into the lighting of the chalice, and Reverend Sarah Gibb-Millspaugh is going to light for us as we say the words together to the chalice lighting. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice. So, good morning. And welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, she, her, and I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone, whether you are new to us or a familiar face. But welcome can't just be words that we say, it has to be embedded in the culture of this place. That is one of the reasons that you may have noticed many of us up here in the past few weeks saying what our appropriate pronouns are, mine or she, her, and that this is not a gimmick. It is a way to develop a comfort level with telling and asking rather than just assuming. The culture of welcome extends to after the service, when those on Zoom will be able to stay for breakout rooms and socialize with others, and those in the sanctuary can stay for coffee and snacks and a workshop after this. Or if you're new to us, to join a brief welcome circle near the back of the room, to meet some of our members and to learn more about us, and for us to learn more about you. If we have anyone new or visiting with us today, we hope you'll give us your email at our welcome table in the back so we can send you more information about this community and the opportunities to connect with us. Folks here would love to meet you and answer your questions about this community. So if you're someone who's willing to answer those questions for new people, if you're a member here at VUU who would be willing to do that, why don't you wave your hand or stand so visitors can find you later? And they're chuckling because I changed that around. Yeah, it's good. So now you know who is willing to talk to you, and it's a lot of people. If you're new and it's not too scary, give us a little wave back so these folks can find you. All right. So also we want to extend a greeting to our online participants by waving to each other. So the Zoomers are up there. Let's get a view of the Zoomers. And the camera is over there if you want to wave to the camera to say hello to them. And Zoomers, wave back to us if you can. Thank you. It's good to see all of you out there. You don't have to stay on camera after you wave to us, but it's good to see you. As we settle in for this sacred time together, please remember to silence any noisemakers. And if you have a little noisemaker who can't be silenced, there is a comfort room to your right, which is a great place for everything from diaper changes to meltdowns, both theirs and ours, and getting the wiggles out, whatever your age is, or a timeout for anybody of us who might need just a little extra space. Today we welcome Reverend Sarah Gibb-Millspaugh from Congregational Life Staff with the UUA. And she leads us in a weekend Some of you have probably met her before. She's leading us in a weekend-long workshop, which we began yesterday with the board, to help us begin our shared ministry together. So she's facilitating for us, and after service, you're invited to stay, have some pizza, and engage in that workshop with us as it continues. We will feed you, and also there'll be a babysitter, so if you have little ones that need to hang out with somebody for a little while, we'll have the room open over here for that. Another way we support each other in our community is with our lay pastoral care team, trained associates from within our congregation who are available if you're dealing with difficulties or challenges. So this Sunday, September 25th, pastoral care will be provided by Michael Woomer in the sanctuary and Nancy Woomer on Zoom. And they will be responsible for pastoral care for the week. You can also contact them through pastoral care at VUU, through an online form on our website, or also the forms that are over by the candle lighting station that you may visit later today. Hey, we're grateful you're here. We're grateful to be together. And now let the people say welcome. Yes. And Katie will lead us in our opening hymn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Katie Seifert. I'm the Director of Music Ministries. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm excited to sing with you this morning. So please stand in body or in spirit as we sing this call and repeat song about coming together. You'll notice with the lyrics, the repeat will be in bold, so just follow the bold lyrics. I've got love.
I've got love.
I've got peace.
I've got peace.
I've got joy.
I've got joy.
Everyone, flowing like a river. I've got love.
I've got love.
I've got peace.
I've got peace.
I've got joy.
I've got joy.
Flowing like a river. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Flowing like a river. I've got hope.
I've got hope.
I've got strength.
I've got strength.
I've got faith
God's faith.
to move every mountain. I've got hope.
Got hope.
I've got strength.
Got strength.
I've got faith
I've got faith.
to move every mountain. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Move every mountain. Now we're going to bring it up a bit. Singing, I've got you, me, and us. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got me.
Got me.
I've got us.
Got us.
Coming together. I've got you. I've got me. I've got us. Coming together. One heart.
One heart.
One mind.
One mind.
One love.
One love.
Coming together, yeah, we're coming together. Coming together, we're coming together. Coming together, yeah, we're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together. One heart, one mind, one love. Coming together, one heart, one mind, one love. Coming together, one heart, one mind, one love. Coming together.
Good morning. You may be seated. I am Marcy Bodwin. I'm your Director of Faith Formation Ministry, and I use the she, her pronouns. Now is the time for all ages, so if you are at home on Zoom and you have children in the house, it's time to bring them in front of your device. If you're with us in the sanctuary and you've got a little one, the kids and their grown-ups, if they'd like, can join us on the floor up here. Feel free to sit somewhere where you can see the screen really well. Come on down. Excellent. Make sure you can see the screen. It's just me up there right now. So, have you guys ever been to some place that you've been so many times that you don't even really pay attention to it anymore? You don't really see what's exciting about it because you just are done with that? Have you ever done that? You've gone to the same place over and over? Well, that's what today's book is about. This kid named CJ and their Nana are going to this place that CJ's not real thrilled about, but Nana helps him open his eyes and see the real beauty in the world around them. This book is called The Last Stop on Market Street. It's written by Matt de la Pena and illustrated by Christian Robinson. CJ pushed through the church doors, skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus in all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but he never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals. He watched the rain patter against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his friend. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what you need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the doors swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked, and he pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear and placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a big smile and a good afternoon, and she made sure that CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and then stopped, and lurched forward and then stopped. Nana hummed as she knitted. "How come we always got to go here after church?" CJ said. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "Well, I feel sorry for those boys," Nana said. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the sunglasses man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched the cars zip by on either side. He watched a group of boys hop the curbs on their bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their nose, too," the man said, sniffing the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in back. "Wish I had one of those," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You've got real life sitting right across from you. Why don't you ask that man if he'll play us a song?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. Click. There we go. "To feel the magic of the music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." So Nana closed hers, too. Nope, you're too far. Back one, please. There we go. And so did CJ. The spotted dog did, too. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus and out of this busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves. He saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky. He saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full, and he was lost in the sound, and the sound gave him the feeling of magic. The song ended and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin that CJ still had in his hand. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors and graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for Nana's hand. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what is beautiful." CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over their soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found beautiful where he never even thought to look. He looked all around them again, at the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lights lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows crossing the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now come on." So the kids are going to go to class now. We're going to go out through the glass doors. If the grown-ups will make a bridge of love, we are going to sing "Peace Like a River."
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul, in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow, I've got pain like an arrow in my soul, in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops, I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul, in my soul. I've got strength like the mountain, I've got strength like the mountain, I've got strength like the mountain in my soul. I've got strength like the mountain, I've got strength like the mountain, I've got strength like the mountain in my soul.
In my soul. I want to invite us into a time of deepening and quiet, of centering and reflection, beginning with these words from Dr. David Breeden. When it feels like lament is the only sound and need the only way of being, here is that one warm room where you know you belong, you know is waiting, open, ready. Here is that place you remember where you were remembered in this too cold world. This place calls now, softly. Come into the circle where you know that you belong. And I would say today the Jewish world begins its celebration this evening of the high holy days of Judaism, beginning with Rosh Hashanah. also known as the Jewish New Year. And its central feature is the blowing of the ram's horn, which is not meant to be musical, as it emits only a harsh blast, a wailing, groaning, threatening, annoying, and frightening cry that is a hint to sleepers to awake from their slumber, a call to examine their souls and improve their ways, meant to arouse and shock and provoke those who sleep. Its wailing is a call to awaken from the lethargy of routine, to repent, and awakening of the capacity to be one's self. Those words from Rabbi Steinsaltz. Now, some of you may have grown up in the Jewish tradition, and like many you may find yourself straddling more than one set of traditions, more than one world of sounds and rituals and ideas. Today, we take some time to allow ourselves to arrive in this time and place and to listen to our hearts. As we create rituals and we revisit older ones, blending our past and present to create a new future together. So if your heart is yearning to light a candle in prayer or gratitude or remembrance, or if you'd like to place a stone in the sands of our bowl, or drop a little bit of water into the fountain to mark and acknowledge anything that your heart is telling you, we invite you to do this now, and we'll hold you in love and with care as you do so. May you awaken to the capacity to be yourself. Blessed be. So Rev Sarah Gibb-Millspaugh and I began thinking about today's worship with these words from another minister that we both have been inspired by. That's Reverend Rebecca Parker. And we are sharing these words with you from her a book called Blessing the World. According to popular religion, we are living on the eve of the apocalypse. A catastrophic cosmic struggle is coming when God's forces will battle the forces of evil. Evil empires will be destroyed, and from their collapse will rise a new heaven and new earth. In place of the 1,000 years of wrong will come the 1,000 years of right. Religious liberalism, Unitarian Universalism included, has our own variations on the apocalyptic dream. Our version doesn't imagine that old worlds are destroyed and new ones created simply by the act of God. We put ourselves in the drama. We assign ourselves the task of dismantling evil empires, and we go to work together to hammer together the new Jerusalem. Think of the evil empires whose ruin we have tried to orchestrate: patriarchy, racism, homophobia, militarism, economic injustice, environmental abuse. And we know the new world we want to put in place, right? I'm grateful for the energy, commitment, and service liberal faith inspires, she says, but I have begun to believe that this theological worldview may no longer be adequate for our times. If we can imagine that the apocalypse is not ahead of us, but already behind us, consider how we might regard our religious task differently. We are living in a post-slavery, post-Holocaust, post-Vietnam, post-Hiroshima, post-9/11 world. We are living in the aftermath of collective violence that has been severe, massive, and traumatic. The scars from slavery, genocide, and meaningless war mark our bodies. We are living in the midst of rainforest burning, the rapid death of species, the growing pollution of the air and water, and the mutations of racism and violence. At the same time that much is breaking down in our society, there are arenas of great vitality and freshness. The arts are flourishing. New movements in religion and spirituality are blossoming. Academic scholarship is bursting with contributions from people of color, diverse feminist voices, queer perspectives, post-colonial writers, and more. Computer technology is creating new patterns of human connection in cyberspace. Cross-cultural encounters and countercultural movements are opening up new possibilities in medicine, business, religion, and the arts. Living in these times, I feel the simultaneous presence of violence, chaos, breakdown, loss, creativity, liberation, possibility, recovery, connection, and empowerment. While we are actively dismantling some things, we are bringing new things to life. How do we live in this world, she asks. What is our religious task? And she says the task is to walk among the ruins, find what can be saved, and gather up the materials to rebuild. In the aftermath of the apocalypse, the religious enterprise can be imagined as a kind of salvage work, recognizing the resources that sustain and restore life, resources that are ready at hand, not in some distant promised land. Our religious task, once we recognize that we're living after the apocalypse, is not to build up the perfect world, but to preserve and protect and nurture what we can.
When I was a kid in a small town, I'd often go to the Burt's family house for babysitting. Just a second. Reverend Sarah and I have a lot in common, but the need for a step at the pulpit is not one of those things. When I was a kid in a small town, I'd often go to the Burt family's house for babysitting. Their house had a big sign next to it, Burt's Salvage. The dad, John Burt, was a Vietnam vet. Unkempt and with a scraggly beard, days would have John out scouring junkyards, looking through demolition sites, and searching flea markets for treasure. John was always finding ways to repair or transform what he found. In his barn, he'd be tinkering, experimenting, shining things up. My parents would pick me up from the babysitting, and they would see the wind-up truck that he'd repaired, and they'd get this mystical look in their eyes and say, "I played with one of those in 1948." We'd marvel at the furniture he'd make from reclaimed wood. And one day we bought a big cabinet shelf unit from him, which we lovingly titled That John Burt Thing, and it was in our living room for decades afterward. I didn't know anything about post-traumatic stress disorder back then, but I could tell that John Burt seemed like a man in emotional pain. The Vietnam War had been for him like it was for so many. Devastating. He had come home to his little town, and not everything was resolved in him or in the world around him, and yet he salvaged, sorting through the junk, finding what was worth saving, putting things together creatively, creating beauty, utility, and even joy. What is our religious task here as people in the United States, people in Arizona in 2022? Things that we could once depend on are crumbling. As the new Arcade Fire song puts it, we're standing at the end of the American empire. Something many of us didn't used to think we could ever dream about losing, as the song says. Maybe we feel neutral about this, like the old REM song. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. But I certainly don't. Mind you, I believe some things need to crumble, but we don't yet know how to sustain life and care for each other as those things fall down. We don't yet know, and that worries me deeply. On Friday, as I packed for my trip here, a judge handed down a ruling that would criminalize abortion here in Arizona, sending the state back 150 years in legislation. And by the time I got here yesterday, abortion effectively became illegal in this state. I am so sorry. Unitarian Universalists have fought for reproductive justice for decades as a matter of our deeply held religious values. And we, the Unitarian Universalist Association, which I represent, we will be arm in arm working to restore reproductive rights and access here in Arizona with you. Thank you. But as our UUA president said in Portland, the day that Roe versus Wade was overturned, it is going to be a difficult, long effort to restore what we've lost. What kind of salvage work? We are up against tremendous forces, not just with abortion, but with all of it. Our whole Western U.S. is drying up and heating up. Our markets, built on a house of cards we called endless growth, they're teetering, and we can't trust that even the minimal safety nets that support well-being are even going to be there for us when we need them. When I think of all this, my heart literally hurts. I feel a deep sadness, a fear, a pain. Of course we do as Unitarian Universalists. This pain is there because we know that We are connected with all life. Here together, our fates are bound up in one another's on this precious spinning planet Earth. And in this, our faith communities have a unique role, a special purpose. We know that we can't build the perfect world. It's just too broken now, and if we admit it to ourselves, we've been complicit. So what is our religious task at this time? Rebecca Parker's metaphor is both fearful and strangely uplifting. The fall has already happened, and we're here to engage in salvage work. Like John Burt from the little town of my childhood, sifting through the decay of our old values and our institutions, pulling out and polishing those things up that can still make life flourish. Finding that spiritual wisdom that we already have about how to care for each other, how to live lightly and responsibly on a changing planet. We Unitarian Universalists know so much about how to create and sustain community, how to nurture people of all ages, how to grieve, how to support one another in making meaning. We know how to hold one another and develop empathy. And this is life-giving, resilience-giving wisdom that we can share. Even at the most isolating times in the pandemic, you here at Valley UU prioritized a kind of salvage work, devoting your closed building to housing unhoused families to keep them safe from the pandemic. After George Floyd was murdered by police, you lined up cars in the parking lot for drive-through Black Lives Matter bumper sticker sticking. This witness and this action for the most vulnerable, this is salvage work. The word salvage comes from the same root as salve and save, saving what is worth saving, even as the institutions that enforce racism and the institutions that create housing inequity start to teeter and tumble. In these tenuous times, we are so deeply interdependent on one another, and I believe that deep in each of us, somewhere buried in our human nature, we recognize that all we've been taught about how we go it alone and human individualism and human exceptionalism, that is all just an illusion. We belong to one another, and when I say we, I mean everything that is alive on this planet. We know this deep in our bones. Ancient spiritual traditions and Arizona's many indigenous religions affirm this. It's showing up in new forms too, in biology, in astronomy, and quantum physics. We are all connected. This worldwide pandemic has been one huge lesson on the limits of individualism and the vital importance of collective thinking, where all of us matter, and us keeps getting larger all the time. We're salvaging through the ruins, uncovering and upcycling what is worth keeping, and we are building something beautiful and worthy together, a mosaic made of materials old and new. Your calling of a new leader in this time is particularly meaningful. All of you at Valley UU are emerging into this time and this place together. It's like trees. You're growing near each other. You're letting your roots intertwine as you come back from COVID and get involved in this new ministry. And you're weaving your lives into a collective, a forest that will grow and leaf and fruit in ways that you can and can't predict. Bring yourself here, your whole self, with your heart that's hurting and strong and vibrantly alive. Here, there is a salve to cure loneliness and meaninglessness and disconnection. Here we dust off and polish up the old, creatively infuse it with the new, and bring it into our lives and into the world. Bless you, Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation and Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, as you move through your saving work together. May it be so.
So we know a lot about breakdown and breakthrough, chaos and creativity, fragmentation and resourcefulness, pain and grace. A lot more than we did a couple of years ago, I think, right? And even this morning, as Reverend Sarah pointed out, as we face the return to 19th century laws for policing women's bodies, and we awake to the news of another officer-involved shooting that resulted in loss of life here in Phoenix, we know that there is much to heal in this post-apocalyptic world every day. So these last few years have required a kind of creative restoration, just like that salvage work she was talking about, and a reimagination of what's possible, and a reckoning with what's simply no longer workable. As a minister, I have questioned my calling with, my capacity for, and my commitments to congregational life and shared ministry these last couple years. Many of you have also asked these questions. Maybe some piece of it was clear, like the piece where you feel connected and a sense of belonging, but maybe not the tasks and responsibilities, the roles you may have had. Or maybe you have been eager to get back to all of it, and now you're finding that things don't fit back together quite the same way. Something has changed our own capacity to do the things we used to do. Maybe it's simply that the roots and vines of this new life followed different energy and resources and grew into a shape and pattern that feels utterly unrecognizable. Reverend Parker names the trauma of living in the post-apocalyptic world, but what is alive for me is that there isn't actually one event we can call apocalyptic, which marks a place from which we may recover in some predictable and sequenced way. The process of healing from trauma and living beyond our history, both individual and collective, is not a straight line. And finally, we didn't all experience the same events in the same ways. Listening to each other's stories and understanding the impact of past events on each other is also part of the work of shared ministry as we move forward together. So I've explored a lot of ways to live into healing and wholeness. You probably have too. And I've thought a lot about what it takes to nurture whole communities. I've been deeply moved by the work of healer Resmaa Menakem, who practices what he calls somatic abolitionism, which he describes as a return to the age-old wisdom of human bodies, respecting, honoring, resonating with other human bodies. Menakem offers practices for us to engage on our own and together to address where energy, history, and trauma get trapped in our bodies. And these practices can allow us to experience something he calls being settled or grounded, where we can be present but not activated. And he suggests that when we act from that place, as individuals and communities, we begin to change the landscape of our shared future. Because in truth, we don't just carry the history and trauma of our own experiences, but also the experiences of those who've come before us. Menakem says that trauma decontextualized in a person is often seen as personality, and trauma decontextualized in a family is just seen as, family traits. And trauma decontextualized in a community is often seen as culture. And we miss something when we do that, right? We miss the actual context. This keeps us from digging deeper, from gaining more understanding about why a person or a people like ourselves and our communities might be behaving and acting in the ways that they do. And we can trace the past then by reconstructing the context from which we are engaging. But we change and diffuse trauma by noticing how it is living in our bodies and how it is shaping our growth, how it creates boundaries and yearnings which move us in specific ways. And we have to begin with our bodies if we want to heal, because when the thinking part of the brain is challenged by our more reptilian brain, our thinking mind will always lose. We really want to believe otherwise, y'all. We really do. But in truth, our embedded shared messages about safety and belonging and fear and disgust, they overpower our desire to be thoughtful and discerning, usually without even realizing it. They cause us to make split-second decisions about whom to trust and whom to avoid. And instead of our cortex being in charge, as we'd like it to be, our lizard brain decides who gets through, what gets through, making decisions based on whether it thinks something or someone is safe or dangerous. And because belonging is predicated on trust, and we can't experience belonging without trust, our lizard brain gets in the way of trust and deeper relationships. Amen. It's a problem. And Menachem says, in today's America, we tend to think of healing as something binary. Either it's broken or we're healed from that brokenness. But that's not actually how healing operates, and it's almost never how human growth works. More often, healing and growth take place on a continuum with innumerable points between utter brokenness and total health. So living in the post-apocalyptic world requires us to slow down enough to notice what is happening in our bodies, to notice our responses to stimuli our cortex doesn't even register. We need to be able to notice when we want to fight, when we want to run away or flee, or when we're just simply frozen in place, unable to respond, or even when we just want to placate. We need to slow down enough to notice who we look away from and who we run to notice what makes us angry and what leaves us utterly stuck. Importantly, our bodies don't just respond to what we've experienced, they respond to what we've almost experienced. You've experienced this watching movies or watching the car wreck in front of you, right? Your body experiences what it's seeing. It also experiences what we've imagined and what we've been witness to. And we carry all of this inside of us all of the time. So we even experience the shape of our bodies as shapes that protect us or shapes that allow us to be more vulnerable and open. When we walk into a room as a new person, we can usually tell right away which groups and individuals are open to meeting us and talking to us based only on our body language, right? We shape ourselves to appear open or not. And we intuit how vulnerable we can be, how safe we really are from the way the bodies around us form shapes together. Think about this when you're in the coffee hour later. How are we conveying openness or closedness? How can we create shapes that allow us to heal and invite others to heal with us? Healing from trauma often involves pain, but the kind of pain that we grow from comes from taking actions that allow us to be true to ourselves. And we feel this when we speak a truth that has to be spoken, when we make a change that we know is needed. When I realized in my first marriage that my feelings for my spouse were irrevocably changed, I spoke that truth and made immediate changes to how we lived, even in the house together, and toward living separately. And it was hard. It was painful. But it was also a relief to speak what was true and to live it. It had integrity. When we can choose to deepen our resilience and our internal coherence, or we can simply muddy the waters and make it harder to deal with and harder to live in our bodies. So living with integrity comes with, sort of taking responsibility and being accountable and honest. And when we act with integrity, we become trustworthy, which is a building block back to relationship and belonging. There's a quote that theologian Bernard Loomer that we've used a lot in our UUA community this last year, and this is what he says. He says, by size, I mean the stature of a person's soul, the range and depth of your love, and your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. Our capacity for belonging and community, as described by Loomer, is grown when we engage in healing with integrity. Now, I can remember the process of healing from my divorce. It did include some cognitive therapy, but also some somatic therapy. It included the kind of exercise that moves emotions through your body, running a lot, in my case, and singing and meditating, tuning into the needs of my body. Medicum says that years as a healer and trauma therapist have taught me that trauma isn't destiny. The body, not the thinking brain, is where we experience most of our pain and pleasure and joy, and where we process most of what happens to us. It's also where we do most of our healing, including our emotional and psychological healing. And it is where we experience a resilience and a sense of flow. We need to belong to one another, and that means we need to retrain ourselves, our reptilian brains, to recognize each other as family instead of as a danger. And we need to reshape ourselves in ways that allow us to grow with abandon and with an openness that invites others to grow with us too. In this way, we may be the ones to tend the fires, the ones who will sow the seeds of change from deep within the earth, the ones willing to enter the deeper wells of our own truth and our own healing. Because when we're lost and alone, we can let the waves bring us home to the river that flows within us and between us. So let's tend these fires together, y'all, and make a home built from the courage of honesty and our willingness to be fully present to the needs of this moment, to the people and planet we share. May it be so. May it ever be so. This is the home we build together, a congregation and a community committed to the liberation of all people and the sustainability of the planet we share. And we build through sharing resources, whether they're personal, financial, spiritual, and material. When we pass the plate, it is a symbol for all the ways that we give to our shared community and its ministries, in person and online, or however we may gather and give. All of your contributions matter, and we are grateful for you and your presence here with us today. Thank you.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Yes. So lovely to have the VU Voices Choir. Now we're going to ask you to sing with us. So stand in body or in spirit. Sing if you are able. This beautiful song by Mom Muse. The lyrics are behind us. Here we go.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.
Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting, any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up the wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love.
Any of these can be used to draw down the prison door, to hoard bread, to abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. So you must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world.
The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide.
There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is still injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled.
Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the resources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation.
But more, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you.
None of us alone, can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Blessed be. Blessed be.
Please stand in body and spirit for our closing song. When our heart is in a holy place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust and wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Won't you join me in our closing words for extinguishing the chalice? Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Go in peace. But stay for the workshop if you can. Visit with the new people who raised their hands and said they wanted to meet you. And there'll be pizza here in just a little bit. If you're online, you can stay on this particular connection. You can leave it up or come back to it. This is where we'll be. Okay. Blessed be. Don't forget the welcome circle.